Okie. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat. And this is where we like to gather together as writers and talk about all things writing for writers and by writers. And we have a very special guest with us today. My name is Jean Wise. I'm one of the co-hosts, and I'm joined today by my other co-hosts. We got the full team here today, which is great. And it's Johnny Alexander and Bethany Jett. And I'm going to turn it over to Bethany to introduce our very special guest, which I'm sure will give us lots of great ideas today. So Bethany, it's on to you.
Hi, everybody. Super excited to introduce Cody Morehead to all of you. He is a man of many talents.
Real thick in here.
He's our creative director over at Serious Writer, and I met Cody at Blue Ridge, and we spent probably an hour talking about ministry and church stuff, and we had just such a good time. He's so easy to talk to and connect with, and it's been a joy to work with him. But not only is he amazing at graphic design and understanding what is current, where trends are going, he also creates book covers, which are fantastic. And he also sings and plays music. He also does the tech stuff for us at conferences. He's the youth pastor at the church with Kyle. They work together. And he also just did a lot of remodeling in their house. So he's handy. He's just the jack of all trades. And you are going to love him if you don't know him already. So today we're going to talk about being creative, and he's the perfect person to talk about this. So Cody, thank you and welcome.
Well, hey there. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, I know that we're going to be talking about creativity over the next couple of weeks, and we wanted to bring you on just to get some ideas, talk about creative outlets, and I want to mention the Facebook group, so I'll go ahead and say it here, and we'll talk about it at the end. You want to tell us about this group, Cody?
Yeah, so we at Serious Writer, we are continually thinking about what we want to offer to extend our reach and our influence in the world, because we believe that we have a message that needs to be shared with the world. And so we are always constantly thinking about new ways that we can get that message out there. And so whether you've seen us do the simulcasts or the webinars or our conferences, we're always trying to find new and different ways to really readdress the influence that we can have in culture and in the world. And so one of those things that I've been thinking about for a while, and I pitched to Bethany, and Bethany's like, let's do it. So we did it like that day. Was a place where people who are not just writers, but creatives can come and meet together and collaborate on ideas, share, and have a group where they can meet. And so what we did was we started Serious Writer Creatives, and it's been really incredible. We've got to see some awesome people on that group share what they've been doing, how they've been doing it, giving insight on some of the projects they're working on, and basically overall and all around, it's just been a real blessing. Because it's a community for people who don't just write, but have a side hobby or passion, whether they're photographers, graphic designers, videographers, gardeners, carpenters, woodworkers. Well, like, we are talking anybody who has an artistic side to them, who is attempting to do something creative outside the realm of writing. And so that's why we started the group. So, yeah.
I'll grab the link and go ahead and put it in right now.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So if that fits you, and real quick, we try to be careful because we love writers, but Serious Writer, we have a ton of content for people who are just writers. And so Serious Writer Creative is for those who are not just writers, but also have a background in some form of creativity outside of writing. So that's kind of what we did, because normally those people run in droves, and a lot of writers have those side talents. And so we figured that the two were a good pair. So, yeah.
It was a great idea, I thought. And like, I always feel like I have nothing besides writing, but I was glad you guys let me in anyway. And when you first did, I was inspired to go back and pick up a cross-stitching kit that I'd bought months ago and started it. So, I mean, it's like, it was really nice to get into something different than writing again and give myself permission to do that. which I've not
Exactly.
been able to do lately because of deadlines and stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds, it's exciting. So people are asking, how do they join? They want,
Yeah, absolutely. So go search for Serious Writer Creatives. It's a private group, and you will be asked some prompts before we allow you to join the group, just to make sure, because we get a lot of people who want to join. You get people from the outside who just click to join. So make sure you answer those prompts. Let us know what your creative niche is, and we'd love to have you as part of that group if you fit that
and it's
mold.
on Facebook. It's a Facebook
Yes,
group.
absolutely. Mhm.
Bethany put the link in the chat, so that'll help.
absolutely.
So you go to Facebook and then
Yep.
search for Serious Writer Creatives.
Yes,
Got
absolutely, absolutely.
We'll say that so in case somebody doesn't see the chat, so they would know that. Super.
Perfect. Yeah.
Super.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're very excited about that. We got a lot of people who really are benefiting from that. So
That
yeah.
sounds super.
Well, where do you guys want? We have so many different avenues where we can go with this. Cody's got the logo on his screen right now, so that's the icon you're going to look for with that. So we can take this in a multitude of directions today. We can talk about book covers. We can talk about how to know what to, we can talk, actually creativity with Cody, a lot goes into branding, which I think he gets a lot of questions about. Cody, where would you like to take this? Tips?
Oh gosh, I just the best way is just ask me questions, because I'm here to serve. So you just ask me whatever's on your mind, whatever you're thinking of. Like, we can go whatever way you want. So
Well,
I'm here to share my limited knowledge on the world.
Well, let's talk a little bit about branding, because that's something I think everybody always wants to hear, and it's such a broad topic.
Yeah.
I think it's so overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that. So what is it? How do we put our hands around this? How do we handle this?
Yeah. So I think the simplest way I've found via trial and error to break it down to people is, and this might sound stupid, but like branding, the word branding, it comes from livestock. Like, what they used to do is they would brand cows. And this is pretty common knowledge. A lot of people know this, but what a lot of people don't know is the history of branding and why it matters to why we call it branding now. Is it's really taken on this rich history, because cattle farmers and ranchers had specific brands for their ranches that they would brand the cows with. And so it wasn't just some random thing. This was like a family crest or a seal or something that was really, really important to the family. And it carried the entirety of their character and their family name with it. And so it was really important to them that what they were putting out there represented them as a family. And so you look at all these different ranches that had Catata Ranch, Gattaca Ranch, Yellowstone Ranch. You had all these people, all these ranches out west who were branding their cows, and depending on who they were and depending on what brand they had would depend on whether or not people would buy that livestock. And I know this is like stupid, but the easiest way to explain this is your brand is the best representation of who you are holistically. And so when we talk about brand, it's not just a logo, it's not just a website, it's not just a color scheme, it's all of it in one. And that's why I think you're right, Gene. It's a very overwhelming thing, especially as we talk as authors and as writers and as individuals, because it's like, well, I'm not a corporation. I don't have the funds to throw behind putting $1 million ad campaign out there to help people know my brand. And I don't know the first thing about color schemes or color palettes. And I don't even have a logo. And like, I barely have a blog, So like, it's this, like, you kind of get paralysis of analysis. And it's sometimes scaling the mountain comes with just taking the first step. Right. And so for branding, my recommendation is just break it down into digestible chunks and do what you can. Like, don't worry about trying to tackle it all at once. You got to remember, people who are building successful brands, it takes years and patience. You can't hop on the express train.
And I think it changes. You got to be open to be flexible with it.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, Bethany, were you adding something?
I wanted to add, the reason why the branding is important when we've talked about marketing in the past is that term integrated marketing, which is basically having a cohesive brand message across all your channels. And so what Cody's talking about is so important, so that when someone looks at your social or your website or something else that you're doing, it looks like it fits within that same holistic area.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just opened the comments. I'm sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat too much, but I got some questions through there. Do you want me to monitor those? Do you guys want to monitor those? How do you want to do it?
Usually we monitor them. So
All
let's
right, perfect.
wrap up a little bit, and then because Rhonda asked some really good questions. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
several of
absolutely.
them. So let's jump to those next. But I have one more question on branding. You know, as we narrow this down, I've been working with Vicki Durstock a little bit on this, and her I'm in her beta course right now on this, and she says narrow it down like to 6 words, 6 action words. And we've talked about content buckets before. I'm sure, Bethany, what do you call those 6?
Not content 6, but umbrella topics.
Umbrella topics and all that, and come those 6. I find that so hard to narrow that down. And you almost need to do that in order to them to broaden this.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I think the biggest hang up any of the clients that I have worked with have is, I would say, especially when it comes to websites, is narrowing down what they do in 140 characters or less.
Yeah.
And the truth is, whether we like it or not, we're done with the age of people reading 2.5 paragraphs to figure out what we do.
Yeah.
Like Google's latest survey that they came out with for attention span, it's actually funny. The trend is going back up a little bit. It used to be 7 seconds. Now it's 12 seconds. So yeah, so much longer. No, but like the truth is, people just, there is the illusion of busyness in our society, right? And it's the illusion that I am busy all the time, and busyness can often be a badge of brokenness, but busyness is also this idea that we carry like a badge of honor. And so what people, if it's going to take them an hour to read, or they feel like it's more than they can stomach in less than 30 seconds, they're probably going to move on. And so what I try to do with my clients is get them to get quick, readable, memorable bios, quick, readable, memorable vision statements, mission statements, and taglines. Because if you can't do that and you can't put what you're doing, we talk about the elevator pitch, right? In marketing all the time, the elevator pitch is so important. Can you say what you have to say in 12 seconds or less? If you can't, then you haven't thought about it enough. And that's just the truth. And you're totally right, Gene. It's difficult. It's very difficult. So yeah.
It really takes, you gotta really be intentional to work on it. And I think
so true.
And Rhonda made the comment that she studied some other people in her genre, and I think that sometimes will help to at least give you a start.
So true.
Yeah, so you can learn from others on that.
Yeah, it's so true.
Where do you want to go? Do you want to jump into Rhonda's questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Rhonda always has good questions.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling up a little bit. So if you've got the first one, go for it.
Yeah, I was scrolling up too.
Oh, I don't have it. Okay.
Here's one. What's your favorite source for graphics license for us to use without copyright violation?
Okay, so for images, I would 100%. I'd go unsplash.com. It has the largest library of hundreds of thousands of images, probably getting close to millions of images now. And unsplash.com, usable images. All of them are high resolution images. You will not find a low resolution image on Unsplash. That's what I like about it the most. Some of the websites that you get free stuff on, they give you low res copies of all the images. You can download directly from the photographer. It's all all of it's rights protected. You can use all of it for free. And you don't even have to give credit to the original photographer at all. It's all just free. That's so Unsplash. As far as free for graphics, that gets a little dicey. I think Canva is probably the best free platform out there. There's PicMonkey. I think PicMonkey has declined in its quality as of late. Dribbble has a little bit that's available for free. It's hard because I don't do any graphic design work outside of Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. And so when people ask me this question, there's two responses. If you are looking to do it yourself and you're looking to do it cheap, Canva and places like Canva and PicMonkey are the way to go. If you are building your brand and you are investing in your brand, my suggestion is to use a professional graphic designer who is going to use Photoshop Adobe Illustrator and the works, because, and I'll tell you, if I can share, I'm gonna share something Bethany told me. Oh, this was like a year and a half ago, and we were working on graphics, and Bethany's like, I don't know how to get my graphics to look like your graphics. Like when I put them in Canva, they look like they're like different images all like meshed to one, but every time you do them, like they just look like they're one graphic. And there's this thing called deinterlacing that Canva does, and it's their way of allowing you to create and do graphic design on a huge platform. And so when you download their images, even though they're high res, are not going to have the touch that a graphic designers are. So they're not going to have the stroke, they're not going to have the overlay, they're not going to have the extra effects that really make graphic design what it is. And so, you know, when you're talking about, okay, if I need to put posts together for Facebook, or I'm doing highlight reels for Instagram or whatever, go to Canva. Don't spend your money on getting a graphic designer. Go to Canva, upload your logo, put it on whatever content you're doing. But if you're really working on overhauling your brand, my suggestion is always find a reputable graphic designer, somebody who is already done work for somebody that you look up to brand-wise, and have them do work for you. Beth.
Can I share 2 tips during that same conversation that we were having?
Yeah.
Cody gave me 2 tricks to try and help it look more cohesive.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So one of them was to take what's called an element in Canva, kind of make it like very transparent, like white gray almost. And then I overlay that on top of my entire graphic so that everything looks like it's meshed together.
Mm-hmm.
That was the problem. It was like, it looked like all these elements on one photo. But adding the overlay very transparent kind of helps with that. And sometimes I'll put the text on top if you can't see it as well. And then his second tip that I remember was, because he had a lot, he's amazing, was to not use black as the font color, to go in just a little bit up on the hex code to get like more of a really dark charcoal gray. So those are 2 tips that I found helpful when I have to use Canva for certain things, is an overlay and charcoal.
Yeah, and let me add to that. So the ocular nerve in the eye cannot actually process the full black appropriately that comes from screens and blue light. So like when people are viewing your graphic online, and it is we call it's 6-0, which is true black in graphic design, the eye actually has a really hard time processing it. Now what the eye does process better is like 1-8-1-8-1-8, which is a very dark charcoal black, and it's much easier for you to view the whole image and see the whole image more crisp, more clearly, because of the way that your eye sees the blue light in your screen. And so I know that's kind of the weeds of it, but the truth is, like, those are little tiny things in your designs. For instance, when people ask me to do a logo, I will always send them at least 6 variants of their logo. And that is 1 in true white, because true white is something your eyes can view, because it's actually the absence of color, and black is all the colors. So the absence of color in white, and then something that is in like a 1-8-1-8-1-8, or a 2A-2A-2A, which is just a shade up, because when they see their logo, whenever you print, this is the other thing, on print media, you're never seeing true 100% black. Like, you're seeing a version of black that your eye can process, because there is no way to print true black. So like when you see it like when you're reading in a book, that's not actually black. That's more of a shade. If you went and color matched it, it's more of a shade like 2A, 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 which is like a step up. So like when you're doing graphics, we want to give I know this is a lot, I'm sorry. But like you want to give the illusion that what you're doing is realistic, because even though people are holding a device, they don't want to feel like their eye is playing tricks on them. Like you don't want to create an optical illusion when you create something that makes that's easy to read and easy to access. So is that helpful? I don't know. I'm sorry.
And those are hex codes, right? I mean, so we would just take
those are hex codes. So if you're going, that's a 6-digit code that they use to identify the color. Every single color that we can see on the spectrum, that our eye can visibly see on the spectrum, has a hex code. So, yeah. It's true.
That's fascinating, actually.
That's amazing. I did find Rhonda's original question because she asked about programs that you use, and I think you kind of mentioned that a little bit. But she said, where do you get some of the specs for when you're doing book covers?
Yeah, so that is publisher to publisher. They're pretty standard. That their standard book covers are 6 inches by 9 inches, but depending on the page count and the word count is going to depend on the spine. And so I always ask the publishers to give me exact spec readouts, because they have it's easy for them in their program to say, with this many words, this is how thick the book's going to be. And then I create the graphics based off that. Now, once again, it depends. Children's picture books are in a range of sizes, right? Like some of them are square, some of them are rectangle. I saw a triangle shaped book. So like it depends on what the book is. A standard book, I believe, is 6 inches by 9 inches. Might be 6.5 by 9. I can't remember offhand, but it just depends. And once again, I use Photoshop mainly to put the elements in for book designs and or Illustrator. Those are the two.
I'm going to go back to the Facebook group, the creatives group, because Joe had asked a couple questions and we sort of skipped over them. She wants to hear 2 comments from her. What if you haven't done much creative stuff in years? Would it be a benefit to get some ideas? And then also just ask, what is considered creative?
Yeah. Okay. So
good questions, right?
Yeah, I can't really define creative, I suppose. Like anything is creative. My son paints and it's creative. He's 1, so it's not good, but it's creative. So, like creative is really just what are you doing to create? What are you doing to make? What are you doing to give back? What are you doing to, not just be a consumer, but a producer? But also within the creatives, it really is like, what are you doing outside of writing to spark what's creative in writing? One of the things Bethany and I talk about all the time is like your writing always draws from your life experience, right?
Oh,
always.
Times, yeah.
So if you don't have any life experience, your writing's going to be pretty bland, right? So go have an adventure. Like go do something fun, like get out of the house, go on a run, go on a jog, ride a bike, like make something with your hands, like paint something, go out in the middle of the yard, just lay down and look up the clouds. I don't know, do what you do, but like try and find things that you can draw new inspiration on. I did a live class on that Serious Writer Creatives page about workspace and what are you doing in your workspace to inspire you to have new ideas and dream up new things. Listen, try and fail. I tell people all the time, try and fail. Like if you have something that you used to do as a hobby and you stop doing it, pick it back up. Like, sometimes that's the spark you need. I'll be honest with you. Okay, have you ever seen what are they called? Oh, there's a word for it, but they're the pictures where if you stare at them long enough, they change and they shift.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So, stereograms, that's what they are. So stereograms, what they actually tell you to do is look at them close, look away, and then look back at them. That's like the trick to figure out how to do it. The reason is because when you look away from them, what your brain is doing is compiling all of the different pieces it just saw. And when you look back, it's organizing them. Like our brain needs to step away from what we're doing so that it can come back to it and organize all the craziness that was happening. And so like when you're creating, when you're writing, when you're doing these things, step away. Like I will tell you this, I cannot tell you how many times I have sat down to do work on something and I get up 10 hours later and I come back to my work and I'm like, this is hot garbage. Right? Because I didn't take breaks. And it's not even like, because in the moment I'm like, I'm on fire. Like my fingers are burning. Like, oh, this is amazing. Right? Like, but the truth is what I was producing was terrible and a rambling mess because I didn't get up and I didn't refill the tank and I was running on fumes and it was awful. So like, sometimes your writing needs you to take a break, even though you feel like you're getting a great word count in, because what you're putting on the piece of paper is garbage. I'm sorry, that's not mean. It's just the truth. Like that happens all the time. So what we need to do is we need to have creative outlets, because those are the pitcher that fills up the cup of water that we're drinking at the creative table, right?
I think sometimes you think opposite what you're doing. If we're staring at the screen and
Yeah.
focusing this, like you said, get outside and look at the clouds, go for a walk. If we're sitting, then move, whatever the opposite is. Sometimes your spirit, your creativity.
It's so true. I find that the people who are most creative in the world have the most fun. Like, I don't know if you know this, like I think that the people who are the most creative have the most fun. They're the people who host the most dinner parties or go to the most dinner parties. They're the people who are hiking or riding their bikes or running. They're the people who are painting or like, and you think like, oh, those people, that's just how they're built. No, those people have to train those qualities into themselves. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, I'm an extrovert, but in my heart, I'm a hermit. Okay. Like, I could do woodwork and graphic. I could stay in my office all day, every day, and never talk to anybody. Right. Because I have a natural bend because I'm so driven to get stuff done that I'll sit in my office for 12 hours a day and work. That's not actually good for my creativity. Right. And it's honestly, you get less done. You really do. Like, if I know that I've got an hour to work on something, and then I have a half an hour, I'm going to go take a walk with my boys and my wife, and then I'm going to come back to it. In that hour, I am crunching and getting some of the best work I could possibly get done because I know what's coming. And then when I come back to it, all I'm doing is making minor adjustments and changes and readjusting how I'm focused. Does that make sense? So you have to do this. And obviously, I'm ADHD. So, like, I'm an adult with ADHD. It's actually diagnosed. So for me, it's much more difficult. And you think like, that means you can't focus. No, it means I'm focused on 100 million things at once. That's my brain at every single point in the day. In fact, I have a window in my office right there, and a bird just flew into it, and I can see it in my peripheral vision, and it's bothering me. So like, that's my life, right? But some of you need to take notes from an ADHD person, because you get so focused on your tasks that you don't realize you can't see the forest from the trees. Like, and we have to be able to take a step back, take a deep breath, assess, and get back to what we're doing. Is that helpful?
You are inspirational.
Absolutely. For all of us introverts, you just want to say.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is, listen, my wife is an introvert to the max. In this quarantine, she's like, I need people.
Love it. Yeah.
She looked at me. We're like 2 weeks into this, and she's like 11, and I'm like, what? And she's like 11. If you're wondering, the amount of days that an introvert can go without really needing to see people is 11. And I've been 11 days. I need to see people other than you. She's like, get your ugly mug out of my face. I need to FaceTime my friends. Like, just the truth. Like, so like we need that interaction. We need that deep breath. We need that it's, the Greeks called it a muse, right? We need that muse, that thing that we can go to. And I would say this for those of you who are writers who are trying to crank out novels and trying to do a blog every day and trying to like, here's my thing. Find at least, I have 50 million projects that I'm working on right now. Okay. Like, or that's how it feels. Right. So I have a ton of projects. If you just have one thing outside of writing that you can use to draw inspiration for your writing, stick with it, do it, and make time for it every week. Because that's what happens as we get busy, and the first thing that goes is our hobbies. Mm-hmm. And that's actually what, I'll be honest with you, I believe that that's how God designed us, is to invest in the gifts and the passions and the desires that he has given us. I personally think that the people who are most successful are not the ones who are work-oriented. They're the people who are passion-oriented, right? And there are some good and bad things about that person, that type. But I'll be honest with you, the reason I think Serious Writer has survived and thrived in all of the craziness throughout these, 4 years now, has been because of the fact that we're driven by passion. We're not driven by like dollar signs and taking over the world. We're driven by the passion to see people get it, like just get their gifting and their writing and get published. And that passion drives us better than any deadline, better than any word count that we need to do, better than any publisher. And so, but that also comes with, we all know how to fill each other's tanks, and we all know what to do to help each other be more creative. Is that helpful?
And if we're honest with each other, we do know what, as long as, like you said, you're willing to explore and go out on adventures. I love that.
And be curious. I think that's important too. Just be curious and know that you don't have to invest hours and hours and hours in something. Just if you're curious about something, look it up, try it out, see how it goes. And then
absolutely.
It or not, just I love being curious.
And I love kind of what you said about when you said you just presented about creating our workspaces here. And I'll put in the chat a book I looked it up that I read yet this year called My Creative Space. And it was very interesting because it talked a lot about colors do you have in the room and whether you should face a window or not, depending on your personality. And I ended up moving my computer. I do face the window now because I found it was better for me than when I had my back to the window or to the side. So
yeah, absolutely. For me, it's terrible. So I can't get anything done because I'll stand there and stare out the window all day. I just be like, oh, it's so pretty. I wish I was out there. Right. Like that's how I am. So yeah. And there's a great cross section too of if you have an Enneagram profile or a 16 personalities or disc profile, figure out what your strengths and your weaknesses are within your disc profile and make sure that you utilize your strengths and weaknesses in your workplace and in your workspace. Like that's really important. People like Bethany, I don't know if you can tell this is our workspaces are a perfect representation of who we are and our personality. Okay. Like they really are. Like if you look behind me and you see what my workspace looks like and you see Bethany's, that is us as people, right? Like it just is. So like she is all glam and glitz. And I'm like, let's go do a woodworking project. Like that's, man, so like utilize your space in a way that helps you be most productive. But also like if you've got 4 white walls and you've got not intentionally, but you've got 4 white walls that have nothing on them and you're sitting at a little tiny cardboard table, like you gotta get some paint. Like you gotta do something because
and a plant.
Exactly. Like get a plant in there. So like if like I worked the first church I worked at. I was the children's student and sports ministry director. And I had this little tiny cubicle office. We were at a church of 1,700 people. I was just a nobody, right? And they were like, hey, here's your office. I think this thing was 6 foot by 8 foot, like if I was lucky, right? So what I did, okay, because I'm crazy, and this was before pallets were cool, okay? I just want to say that. I was using pallets before they were cool. I got pallets and I put them as the backdrop. Yeah, that took away 2 inches of my space, but when I walked in that office, it felt cool, right? And then I got Christmas lights and I hung them from the ceiling. And then when people walked into my office, they're like, oh, this is like, you did this up good. Like even though this is a tiny little hole in the wall, like you did this up good. And gave me pride in my workspace. But it also gave me creativity because when I went there, that was my oasis, right? Like when all the craziness was going on, when I was working hard, that was before I was married. Like I was working hard. It was a place I could go and it was mine. And I could just relax and I could de-stress, spread everything out on my 2 foot long desk. And, I could tackle task by task what I needed to. Like, sometimes I think I think there's a great benefit in going to cafes and working in cafes. Okay. But part of the problem is there's no consistency, right? And there's not a safe haven for you to go to. And the truth is, let's all be honest. You might pop in your headphones, but after a while, cafes are your least productive space. Like you might have a cafe you go to every single day and you might write and you might, it's my mobile office, right? I can't tell how many people have said that to me, right? And you might say that is your most productive space, but the truth is it's not your space. And there is something to be said for making a space that is yours in your home, that you can work, that you can get things done, especially in a time where people aren't going back to their offices. I mean, the whole entire job front is going to shift after this is all said and done. Like most companies are saying, like, we might actually go to this. Like this might be a thing. Like we might have virtual check-ins and virtual clock-ins for our employees and have them work from home because it's cheaper than having an office space.
A lot of money.
It's a lot of money to maintain office spaces.
Bethany, can you talk about Justin's experience when he was overseas and his workspace, his home space?
So Justin was in Afghanistan a couple years ago on his long deployment, and he was at the worst site, and they lived in shipping containers, and he had half of a shipping container where he had to live, and Justin's really handy, like he can build anything, and so he he built like a loft in the shipping container. So he had a desk, he had like these shelves, he had like a special place up front. So it became the room that everybody wanted. Like when he left, they were all kind of like vying over who got his space. And then he built Adirondack chairs. I don't know if I said that word right, but out of like just the material that they had on the base. And so they had this little fire pit area and a tanning area, which is really like this slab. I don't know. But he really did just kind of make it his own with things that he found around the area. And like I said, it was a shipping container. It was terrible, but it became like the shipping container. High end.
Yeah. That is amazing. That is just amazing. It shows how creative the human spirit is. And Rhonda made a question, if you think about it, who's more creative than God? Because have you really ever looked at a giraffe? You know, you step back and look at this world God's created. It is amazing. And it's always beyond. You know what I mean? You would think we would create animals with 4 legs and a neck and a head, but no, he stretched the neck out. You know, he curled the tails. He just gave some animals 1 eye instead of 2. You know, it is amazing. So that's the best muse to tap, right, Cody?
Absolutely. I mean, God is most satisfied in us when we are most satisfied in Him. And when we are most satisfied in our gifts and our passions, I believe that is when we are glorifying God the most. Like I really do. Like I think that for us at Serious Writer, like our purpose and our potential is to reach people. Like, and that's our desire. And we didn't, Bethany, I'll speak for you. It's okay. Don't worry. But I know because we've had so many conversations about this as a company. Like even though we're not a church, we believe that we do ministry every single day that we have Serious Writer, because our goal is to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ in a roundabout way, right? Because like not every aspect of Serious Writer is 100% like publicly 100% Christian, but every single part of Serious Writer is 100% following Christ, right? Like, so because of the way that we do things. And so like, I think that when we set out to do something and we set out to create something new, the goal that we have is not just for us, at the bottom line to make money or to sell classes or to do all this stuff. It's to reach people. And in that, we're always going to work to glorify God. And I do believe that that's a lot of the reason that God has blessed us and continue to give us favor is because we've continued to pursue that as a company. So, yeah, so I would agree. I think we're most creative when we're most striving after Christ.
I agree with that. Now, I want to go back to a branding question. On that.
We're just
curious.
Perfect.
You got the 3 of us on here with our little names in the little lower left-hand corner, but you got this wonderful branding going on your screen with your title and Facebook links and an @Cody Morehead. Now we're gonna get asked, how did Cody do that?
It's a secret. I can't tell you. I can't. No, so I use a program. I video conference all the time. I am constantly doing Facebook Live. So one thing I don't know if this is the same. I know Bethany feels the same. If I don't know how to do something, I just Google it and figure it out. So that's pretty much like, and I know people are like, I don't like technology or I don't know technology. I get it. Not everybody is tech savvy. So like that really is my area of expertise. So when I say that I do all this stuff, it's because I really enjoy technology and learning new stuff. So, but I use a program called eCam Live. It is a paid subscription. So to be able to do some of this stuff, I had to pay, but it is a program that allows you to use your webcams as a live video, live webinar camera. And so it is also, my setup is crazy. I have 3 screens. So like I have lots going on. So as well as studio lighting, and I have my microphone here, like on my boom arm. So like you're seeing a highlight reel. So don't, like, a lot of junk goes into that, but yeah, so that's how you do that. And I create all the graphics I create are custom. So, I try to make sure that I have some fun stuff that's just mine. So, but yeah.
Have we missed any other questions in the chat, gals?
I didn't see any, but if we did, please ask it again. Yeah.
Is eCam only Mac only? Tina wants to know.
No, I believe eCam is also on PC. You can also, there's free softwares out there like OBS. OBS is a free software.
OBS.
It's much more complicated. It's much more difficult to figure out. So there's OBS, there's Elgato. So I would just do a Google search and play around. Like I downloaded 4. This is the other thing. Okay, if you want to talk about creativity and branding, yeah. I am all about failing. Okay. Like people are like, oh, like you're like, whatever, we do all this stuff and we have fun and we're successful and people laugh at us, whatever. So, but the truth is, do you know how many failures go into one success? Like it's nuts. Like I have failed so many times. There's a laundry list of things I've screwed up. So you just have to understand, like we like the sausage, but we don't want to see how the sausage is made, right? Like,
exactly.
Right? It's like, oh, I want that, but I don't want to have to struggle for it. Like, there is a lot of hard work that goes into the behind the scenes of all the stuff that goes on, and a lot of it is failure. So
oh
yeah.
my gosh. Yeah. Cody, okay, I have to share this. So we did this series of free webinars like a little bit back, and Cody was handling all the video and IT stuff, and I was handling all the email, like coordinating the subscribers and stuff. But we had not used that section of our program before or even connected it to that. And Cody, I think there was one time I was almost in tears, and he calls and he's like, it's okay, it's gonna be okay, no one's gonna mind, it'll be all right, and I'm sending out apology emails to people. Here's the right link, it's not working. It was like a hot mess, hot garbage, as Cody said. But we talked about it after when we finished the whole thing, and we thought, now we can teach someone else how to do it. We know what not to do. And I think this comes into building a brand of people as well, because Cody said to me, he's like, the people who did this, most of them know us. They already trust us. They're not going to hate you. Because I was worried about people who were new to us, right? Like, he said, it's okay. It'll be better next time. So, that worked out. But, oh, my gosh, that was, talk about fail. Some epic fails happening in that one.
And I just think so many times we won't even try because of fear of failure. It's like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I put off writing novels for like decades because I was afraid of failure, and it's just not, we've just got to get over that. We just have to try, and if you fail, so what?
Well, yeah, can I share a personal story there? So like, I'll give you a great example. So when I started speaking and I started really pursuing speaking, like professionally and going and traveling and doing speaking engagements, my buddy said, you need to make a website, right? And I said, okay, like I'll make a website, right? And he said, after you're done making your website, what you need to do is, now this is not best practices now, but it was then. But he said, when you're done, you need to personally send an email or a message to everybody who's a Facebook friend of yours and invite them to follow, like log in, follow, sign up for your newsletter, so on and so forth. Right. So I used to have this website back in the day so people could find me and whatever. So, so they're like, okay. And so I get done and I invited 5 people because I sat there and I thought about what people thought of me. I thought, oh, they're gonna be like, this guy, like, I can't, like, right, who in the world is gonna listen to him? This weirdo, nobody knows him, right? And then like I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll invite my mom, and I'll invite Kyle, and so I invited 5 people. I sent out 5 things. I could have copied and pasted into every single person. I didn't do it, not because I was lazy, but because I was scared of what people who I'd gone to high school with, or I'd gone to college with, or I was worried about what they were going to think. And instead of following what God had told me to do and what God had put in my heart to pursue, I was just stuck in this paralysis of analysis and this deep pit of like insecurity that I couldn't invite anybody else on my list. And so my website sat there, and like I got 5 hits. So because of I invited 5 people. So like, and it was like, it's so hard because it's like we especially when we're talking about building an audience, building a brand, it's like every time we talk about it, I know people are just sitting there, and this tension in the back of your neck that you get, you're like, oh, I know I should do that, but I don't want to do that. And like, I know I should, but I'm not going to, because guess what? My aunt twice removed on the left side of my family decided that she doesn't like me, and she's going to be like, well, why are they posting that? Right? Like, it's just, we get that in our head all the time. And all these insecurities, they run rampant. I think of it this way. I think, okay, what if you woke up in the morning, right? And the person who is your biggest adversary, your biggest enemy, the biggest bully to you, right? You wake up in the morning and they are just walking hand in hand with you the entire day, right? And they are just mean to you all day. They're saying terrible things to you. Like, I think that is what we are to ourselves. I think we are our biggest bullies, and we beat ourselves up about all these things that go on over and over. Well, why did I do that? Oh man, I did that. Like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. And instead of believing what God has told us about ourselves, we let these insecurities weigh us down and keep us from actually doing what we're supposed to do. And because we're the meanest people to ourselves. And I don't think that stuff is accurate either. I think that what we think people think of us is always different.
They're probably not thinking of us at all.
Yeah, honestly, they're probably, oh, cool, whatever. Like, it's I see the memes all the time, like, oh, somebody from high school selling Arbonne, like, or like, who else is going to sell me essential oils in our family? But like, the truth is, they put that stuff out there, and it's like, good for them. Like, I don't have any ill will. Like, and I guarantee most other people are like that. They're like, hey, good for you. Like, you're pursuing something. Like, how can I get in the way of that? Like, and honestly, if I had a problem with it, it'd be a me problem, not a them problem, right?
Well, you sure have inspired us today. I want to give time for people to come on back on, because I think there will be some more questions. And I think, Rhonda, I think you asked a question a little bit ago, too, that we may have missed just shortly ago. I'm going up, it was before all the, let's see if
I can ask it live, Jean.
Yeah, ask what that question was.
With my voice, not my skunk stripe hair.
Back on, because we're going to people back on anyway.
But I was asking Cody, I've spent a lot of time customizing images for use, say on Twitter, just the size of it. And you have to rearrange the words and everything. Mm-hmm. How important is it, or is there a standard size that you can share across platforms without that extra work?
Yeah, square. Square is the only square size. That's what most graphic designers now are going to 16 by 9 or 9 by 16. So story sized, square size graphics, and 16 by 9. So 3: portrait, square, and landscape. That's it. And the reason being is because square is viewable across all platforms, and it is the least compressed image format. And so it is able to be used on your website. It's able to be used on your social media. And most times thumbnails are in square format. If they're not, they are typically, it's because of a custom coding. And when they show up on social media, they're going to be in square format anyways. Sometimes people will share their blog and you only you see an image, but you only see a really portion of the image. The portion of the image that's cut out is a square. If they would have just done the image as a square to begin with, it actually wouldn't have cut out that portion. Or if they would have made the image and then pick the portion of the square that they wanted for the featured image, it would have showed up exactly how they want. So square is the only, it's like the what, typo negative of graphics. You can use it on anything.
So I've been using BookBrush, and I've been focusing. I like Instagram because I am a creative, artistic. Instagram really appeals to me. And so I have been cross-posting that to Facebook. I just didn't know if I could cross-post it to Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Twitter, they are this weird, it's weird with Twitter because Twitter used to limit everything because it was in an effort to make themselves the king of social media. It failed miserably. People went away from Twitter. Twitter has been on the decline, I think, since 2012. It's raised back up because I think in large part because the president's on Twitter. But for the most part, the two social medias that I see growing, and Bethany can talk on this, the two social medias that I see growing consistently and frequently are Instagram and TikTok.
That's it.
TikTok is growing like crazy. It's garbage for those of you who are wanting to download it and hop on. I want to warn you, it is garbage content. There's a lot of stuff that's terrible in there. But if we want to be a light in the darkness, we have to go where people are that need the light, right? So that's why we went, like, I know Bethany's content is awesome because Bethany always puts out positive stuff about working and being a mom. I just put stupid, goofy stuff out there because that's just who I am. So, right. But like, and Kyle does the same thing, TikTokopotamus, Kyle Young. So, but you can, there's all sorts of things. So I would say, like, as far as what you're doing, square graphics and story size graphics, which once again are that 9:16, are the way to go. So
add to that. So
yeah.
For TikTok, what I'm hearing from people who are like talking about it is that the algorithm is, they're calling it like fresh, or it's new, or you're not forced into the algorithm like you are on Instagram. And so if you're just following like the over 30 club, over 40 club, over 50 club, like start just following and liking them, you will not see the other stuff. Like, it listens to what you're doing. So you can very quickly get on TikTok and only be seeing content that you want. Like, I never see teenagers, I never see weird or bad things, and it like learns from you from like a fresh place, which is one reason why I've loved it so much, is because I'm not seeing like all the garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would, is it okay? Can I show, I was maybe screen share in just a second. I was going to show you guys something about how to set up your images.
Yeah.
Because there's a trick graphic designers use to set up their images so that they don't have to make a million different images. So, but I want to show you that, but it's taking a second to load. So
I'll say
you guys
this,
are okay with that?
there is an account on TikTok that has like I think 100,000 followers. 3 of their videos have had millions of views, and it is an 83-year-old woman and her 90-year-old sister, and they do TikTok, and they have this huge following. They're so funny. But the one of the TikToks that I see over and over is millennials talking to Gen Z, kind of like throwing shade at them, like, listen, we invented social media, we're here, we're not leaving. And a lot of people are kind of leaving their Instagram because of the algorithm change there and coming over to TikTok because they feel like they found like their people, the non-judgy people. There's tons of adults over there, businesses over there. It's awesome. You just got to be searching when you first get on for the right hashtags, like writers, over 30, over 40, over 50. So you teach TikTok to not show you the other stuff. It's been
so true.
Super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, listen, any new venture is scary. Like, it just is. Like, it was scary. I mean, I don't get scared stuff, but it was, for me, it was like, do I really want to do this? I don't know. Like, is this really the thing that I want to be like investing my time in? And ultimately, like, I realized, yeah, like if that's where people are, that's where I should be, because I have a responsibility to be where people are, right?
I love that.
So I'm going to show you guys this little hack I have real quick. Is that okay?
Yeah. No, please do. Wait for it to come up. Johnny, do you want to maybe introduce next week's topic while he's making that up? Because
so next week we're doing Call to Create. So if you get a chance, please read the book ahead of time. We're just going to be going through all the different chapters, giving little, I don't know what I want to say, just giving our feedback on that. And of course, we'll be opening it up so that you can also share your insights into the book and what spoke to you and what was important to you. And Called to Create by Jordan Rayner.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna show you something real quick. If you're seeing my screen, I actually am going to. I'm gonna share screen with you real quick, if that's okay. And I want to show you. Okay, so this is a template that I've set up for my can you guys all see this? I just want to make sure somebody give me yeah, we can see this.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. No, good. Sorry. Okay, so this is a way that you can also in Canva. I know it's very simple. What you can do is just do a very simple in Canva specifically, you can do a very simple resize, and it's a magic wand, and it resizes your graphics and it re-puts everything. If you're working in Photoshop or you're creating other images, one thing that I always try and do is I start off with a portrait style image. So this happens to be a 9:16. So the dimensions are 9:16 as far as their ratio. And so I'll start off with that. And then what I do for my overlays and my images and how I'm putting things in there is I add them so that they fit in both spaces. But the main thing that I want to communicate, I put in the middle section so that when I go to export this image, I actually have an image that I can use to crop, because when we go into when you end up going into your Instagram, so on and so forth, you can actually resize your images however you want. And so I could use this on my Instagram story as well as my Instagram. Does that make sense? So making those different images is really, I think, important as you're putting things together, because it allows you to create two different graphics without doing all the work of creating two different graphics. Like, I just have one graphic that I can export, and the whole of what I'm trying to do is in that square in that middle section. Does that make sense?
So Cody, if I'm using Canva for this, I could do a 9:16 or 16:9, whatever one is the right way. And then inside of that, get a square element, stick it in the middle of it, and then work within that square element and the big element to do something similar for those of Canva. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it would be the easiest is, I always say, start with your 9:16, because yes, for like Facebook covers and videos, you're doing 16:9 because it's widescreen, but really everything else we're doing right now is in square and portrait mode. Like, I don't make any other graphics. Like, really, I make very few graphics that are widescreen oriented. Like, when I'm making websites, I'll do banners and stuff, but most of my graphics are square sized or portrait sized because of how they fit and how I can crop them and edit them in whatever software I'm using. So is that helpful?
Yep. That was great.
This has been very helpful. I mean, I love today's program because we had very specific tips, and yet we got inspired and brought, and I think we're all going to be creative this afternoon. I'm sure we're going to help you creative. So thank you, Cody, very, very, very much for bringing your passion to our little world today. We hope you come back. I know you can't always come on Tuesdays, but we hope to have you back, because you're always a wealth of ideas.
Well, good. Well, I thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, we do that. Johnny and Bethany, do you have anything to say as we wrap up the recording?
Good.
Please join the Facebook group so you can talk about things besides the writing and everything. And Cody's been doing a really great job in there. It's a fun group to be in.
Okay, that sounds good. And you put it's a Facebook look. It's called Serious Writer Creatives.
Yeah.
Is how you find it. So thank you again, Cody, and we'll wrap up the recording. Thank you for being with us today or watching it by replay. I'm sure you got lots of ideas. And for those of you that are in the chat room, stay on and we'll have our little after party. Have everybody come on back on in just a minute. Thank you, everybody. See you next week where we'll be creative one more time. Bye.